Hey everyone, welcome to an advanced sports analytics live stream. Today is Wednesday, July 14th. Hope you all have been enjoying a nice and relaxing MLB All-Star break. We haven't had NBA since Sunday. So mostly this week, just getting ready for game 4 of the NBA Finals and also getting ready for the Open Championship, the British Open, the Open, whatever you want to call it. Last major of the 2021 season over across the pond. They're playing at Royal St. George, which hasn't been featured in the Open for a while, but it will be a link style course like we tend to see with the Open Championship. If you're joining on YouTube and haven't done so on Twitter, you can retweet our tweet for this show, or feel free to comment in the YouTube channel or in the chat, your SuperDraft username and your favorite British golfer. So your favorite golfer from Northern Ireland, you got Rory. Your favorite golfer from England, maybe you got Paul Casey, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Poulter, I think should be strong this weekend, or Wales, Rob McIntyre. Not sure if Laird is in the field this week. And there's one other country I'm forgetting. Don't really know British geography that well. But anyways, comment your favorite British golfer in the field this weekend and your SuperDraft username, and you will be entered into a random drawing that we will do about an hour from now for 2 tickets into SuperDraft's Albatross contest. That's their big flagship contest this weekend. $25 ticket value, $10,000 in guaranteed prizes, $2,000 up top. Should be a great contest, should be a great final major to 2021. I'm joined today by Charles. Brandon is off on kid duty, so Charles is jumping in to help cover the British Open as well as Game 4. So welcome, Charles. Excited to have you here on our last major show of the 2021 season.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, exciting to get back into the swing of things after a few days off of sports, and looking forward to going over the slates.
Yeah, definitely. And interesting dynamic with the European start time. I think, believe I'm on Mountain Time. It's like an 11:30 p.m. Start time. So I'll be like waking up to the kind of end of round 1. I kind of like watching as much as I can, but I can't say I'm going to stay up all night to watch round 1. Well, yeah, let's jump into it, and I'll do a screen share of, I believe our NBA projections up right now, but users can access our free SuperDraft projections for PGA. It's the only sport where we offer free SuperDraft projections, so I encourage you guys to check that out, and we'll go through and kind of talk through our projections. But as far as the course goes, like I said at the top, we don't have a ton of information or prior data. I think this Royal St. George has hosted the British Open, I think nearly a decade ago, which we don't consider in our data set. But, the British Open, these link style courses typically tend to downweight the importance of putting and elevated importance on being able to scramble around the green, as well as making quality approach shots from the fairway. With the link style course, we will see, uneven kind of rolling fairways, in which I think, being able to kind of make quality second shots will be of elevated importance. And of course, these big pot bunkers around the green and in the fairway. So being able to scramble around the green, get yourself out of trouble should you get into one of those bunkers, and really, set yourself up around the green, should be of elevated importance. So that's, I think, at least in my mind, some of the traits to key on. Of course, off the tee play and just like ball striking in general is always of high importance, as it is one of these stickier statistics. But, I think these types of things should probably be internalized in our, projection and kind of player consideration process, figuring out how to tweak the relative importance of some of these strokes gain categories. Can be crucial in tournaments where we do have prior course data. Not so much the case here. So we do kind of have to be a bit speculative in terms of figuring out how players stand to fit the course. When we tab over to our projections and sort by the value column, we can see guys that are bubbling to the top. In previous weeks where we've had kind of weak fields, easy courses with a lot of birdie opportunities, we have seen the projections tend to favor high multiplier, mid to high multiplier guys. And, that's paid off well. I mean, we've seen, like, I think Lebiota has been a guy we've been real high on in recent weeks. Jonathan Vegas, these guys have succeeded in the weak fields, but, we've got a major quality field here. A ton of just great players leading the way in terms of win probabilities. John Rahm, we've got Koepka, Spieth is third as per Betfair odds. Schauffele, Thomas, McIlroy, Johnson, Cantlay, really, DeChambeau down here at 34-1. So we got, a really strong top of the field, and then also really skilled kind of mid-tier golfers: Hatton, Hovland, Pat Reed, Morikawa, Lowry, the defending Open winner, Fitzpatrick and Casey and Fleetwood, some English golfers. So, I mean, just a really, really deep field. And I do think it's going to be tough for many kind of deep flyers to make it through to the weekend. And then, of course, because, we expect it to play kind of like an open level course, the upside of some of these high multiplier golfers through accumulating large numbers of birdies, I think, is somewhat limited, and we could see value skew a little more towards finish position, in which case, some of these top tier golfers have, a higher, just far higher likelihood of winning the tournament than some of the deeper guys. But yeah, we'll start at the top. Our top projected golfer is Rory, who is kind of just outside of the elite players from a multiplier standpoint. There are a handful of guys in the 1 to 1.1 range. Rory kind of in the middle tier at 1.15. He's got excellent win odds, though. Looks to me as the sixth most likely to win the tournament as per Betfair odds. Yet he's kind of priced outside of the top 10 or so as far as multiplier goes. So for me, Rory really checks out. And I know he kind of let down at the last Open in his native Northern Ireland. I do wonder if maybe the pressure being off him a little bit this week, and he has been in pretty strong recent form. I think his play overall kind of fits the course reasonably well, like putting, at least in the short form, has been kind of his weakest area, which I think might be downweighted. He does play particularly well as an approach shooter and with his around the green shots. So he's a guy that stands out for me. As you look at kind of this maybe top half of golfers priced like 1.3 and below, are there any guys that are standing out to you as particularly good value for this weekend?
Yeah, well, I mean, I love Rory as well. And then from a pricing standpoint, I'd say John Rahm, just in the sense that we have I think it's 5 other guys at a 1 multiplier, and Rahm's like a 8-1 favorite to win. So there's a real kind of significant discrepancy there that you have. I mean, sure, these are great golfers, but no one's on the same form Rahm has been on, and you can get him at the same value. I think he's the projections feel the same way, that he's of great value there. His game kind of suits it, the course also, kind of that like lower flight shot. He'd be my favorite in terms of the lower guys, just coming off of really obviously as good a form as you can come off of. And farther down the list, there's some guys like Abraham Answer I like, who's kind of been in contention but hasn't really been talked about a ton, a little lower down. And kind of some of the guys who might have some childhoods growing up on links golf courses. But I'd say that's where I stand right now. Yeah. Oh, can't hear you, I don't think.
I was going to say Answer as of late hasn't been stellar around the green, but certainly fits the bill as a strong approach player. He's kind of top 10 about in terms of recent form approach play, gaining nearly a full stroke per round in approach shots over the last 6 months. Yeah, it is interesting. It does seem like the betting market is kind of high on some of these, English golfers, and I don't know if that if just people are placing bets in a way that kind of the odds are shrinking for some of these guys. But like Hatton at 29-1 seems quite favorable. Like Rory at 21-1, I think makes decent sense. But like Hatton, we usually don't see with that good of odds. And then there's some of these that like Fitzpatrick 30. Fitzpatrick and Fleetwood seem kind of like to me that makes sense. But I was looking down at like Poulter at 51-1. Rose, who's been not very good, and I don't even really think is a great course fit, at 56-1. Rob McIntyre, who's like at most tournaments, I think a pretty deep guy, but I believe he's Welsh. So I'm not sure if that's like a betting. People are placing their bets favored towards some of these British guys, or if the books are kind of thinking that maybe these British guys have Danny Willett at 126. If maybe the books are just thinking that there is something to that. I think we note in our strategy article that'll come out on SuperDraft this evening on the strategy site, like we don't incorporate some of these kind of narrative based nuances into our projections, but I do think like at times some of these things can be absorbed by Vegas odds. So going back to that kind of top tier group of one multiplier guys, like I am with you. Rahm does stand out as kind of the clear best choice. Just his Vegas has strong backing for Rahm at 8.5-1. Like you said, he's been in phenomenal form. Justin Thomas to me is a guy that could fly under the radar. Like I do think Rahm will be far more owned than any of these other 1X guys. And like Thomas, to me, he hasn't been in the greatest form as of late. But to me, his game does feel like one that is well suited towards these link style courses. I don't really have any information on like how he's fared at link style courses, but I do think his best shots are kind of his second and third shots, which I would expect to play up a decent bit at Royal St. George. So Thomas to me seems like could be kind of a sneaky guy that might go overlooked. We like Schauffele a good bit in our projections. Not like an ideal, I guess, like course fit in that. I mean, look, obviously we'd rather have good putters than bad putters, but with these link style courses where strong putting tends to go under rewarded, like that to me is one of Schauffele's best traits over the past 6 months, gaining nearly half a stroke per round putting. Not sure it's like the greatest fit for him, but at 19-1 at 1.1x, he does have, I think, some of the better win equity relative to his multiplier. Yeah, like Schauffele stands out, Rory stands out. Even Hatton and Hovland to lesser extent. But yeah, I mean, I do think Schauffele stands out in terms of just Vegas backing relative to his multiplier. Let's see, who else do we have up here towards the top and kind of the mid-tier range? Reed, we like a good bit, 1.15x, 31-1. He's been putting great as of late, which, like Schauffele, could go under rewarded, but has also been playing quite well in his around the green and approach play. Zalatoris is interesting. We've been high on him in recent big tournaments, and he's kind of let down. But we have seen kind of the major medal for Zalatoris, and I think he's coming off a reasonably solid performance at the Scottish Open. I think he was like T26 or something, but made it through to the cut, was making birdies. So like Zalatoris a good bit as we kind of move to the mid tier. Casey to me is a guy that stands out in the mid tier. English golfer, has good experience on the links courses. His play, I think, is just well suited for these links courses. He must be one of the better approach players in the field this weekend. Yeah, looking like he is sixth coming into the weekend in terms of strokes gained approach over the last 6 months, behind guys who are all, well, Morikawa has been quite strong, but Rosner, who we can talk about in a bit, Hoshino, Kurt Kitayama, Paul Waring. These are pretty deep plays. So Casey, I like a good bit in kind of the mid tier range. Who are you looking at in kind of this outside of the favorites, but certainly guys who could challenge in like the 1.2 to say like 1.3, 1.5 range, 1.3, 1.35 rather?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that I noticed looking at the projections was kind of like the how interesting it is. It's like you got kind of a similar structure. Got like Tommy Fleetwood, Paul Casey, Louis Oosthuizen, Shane Lowry, all in that similar multipliers in the same range, and then their win odds are like in the 30s, which it's just clearly they're being, as you were alluding to, clearly they're being like priced as if they have a much better odds, whether that's just the money that was coming in. I mean, obviously it's fun to kind of root for one of those guys on a links course like this. And then kind of down the board, like, you could look for a guy like Ricky Fowler, who's just a big name, but I almost like to fade those guys in tournaments from the perspective that they're going to get a lot of popularity, and you're almost better being outside the consensus on that. A guy like Kevin Streelman, I like. The approach gaining 0.56 on a round it's pretty strong in this range. Yeah, and then you could always just have some fun and get a guy like Phil Mickelson involved. I mean, obviously his game's probably not as suitable, but he can win. I mean, but you probably want to, fade those big names. They're just going to be overplayed for value. There's consensus going elsewhere. So I'd probably get one or two. I mean, I think Fleetwood's undervalued. He's been incredible. The 1.15 and win odds at 36. I'd probably give him a shot in my lineup and go from there.
Yeah, Stroman's an interesting one. He doesn't have like great implied win odds, but I'm with you. He does look like a guy who, just his overall game should fare reasonably well for these link style courses. Not a great putter, but strong with his kind of first two shots. Yeah, I do. I'm with you. I think Streelman is compelling. It's interesting. Our projections seem not super high on this range. So like while I think in previous weeks, kind of our recommendation has been to do like a nice layered mix of a couple low risk, low multiplier plays, a couple guys in the mid tier, and then a couple 1 to 2 guys with kind of dart throw type plays. Certainly, if you're using our optimizer and not setting in rules to try to coerce some of these mid-tier guys, you might not get quite as much exposure to the mid-tier as you would in other contests. And speaking of kind of these dart throw plays, there are a number of high multiplier guys that we're fairly high on. These guys tend to be high risk, not far from locks to make it through to the weekend. So, doubling, tripling down on some of these high multiplier, low make cut probability guys is kind of dangerous. But certainly, to win tournaments, you are going to have to hit on some of these high multiplier guys that are able to make it through to the weekend. And look, we might get a tournament where there's one or only 2 high multiplier guys that finish in the top 20. But if there are 3+ guys in kind of the 1-3+ range that make it through to the weekend and challenge for like a top 20 or top 10 spot, unless they just generate next to no ownership, you are going to need some of these high multiplier guys that can put up scores that are just The upside I think that they have just by virtue of their multiplier is far greater than some of these low multiplier guys who maybe have high floors but potentially low ceilings. So Migliozzi is a guy that stands out to me. He does not have like a ton of data. He's only had 2 starts this year on the PGA Tour. He's played well in both those starts. Fourth place in the U.S. Open and 13th place in the Travelers, which is a pretty strong field. And then, of course, this is his rookie season. But he also has been playing a lot on the European Tour this year. He's got 2 second-place finishes in his last 3 starts, one of which was the British Masters. So I think like he's a guy that stands out as being in very good form both on the PGA Tour and on the European Tour. By playing on the European Tour a lot, he has a decent bit of experience this year on the link style courses, and I think his game is just well suited towards it. We're kind of going off limited data, but gaining nearly a full stroke per round in those 2 starts in approach play, gaining a half stroke per round in those 2 starts in around the green play. So Migliozzi is a guy to me at 1.45x, and I think it's also worth noting that the multiplier this week is capped at 1.55 as opposed to 1.6 or 1.65 that we've seen in recent weeks. So like Migliozzi at 1.45 is near the multiplier ceiling. He's got pretty strong win odds. 126 to 1 I think is about as good as you're going to see at that 1.45 range. So he's a guy that stands out to me. Antoine Rosner, also a young golfer with kind of limited data. He has struggled around the green, which is a bit concerning, but really strong approach player. Got reasonably good win odds at 200 to 1 at 1.55, the multiplication ceiling. So like these are a couple guys that I'd be willing to take dart throws on. Anyone for you that's standing out in kind of this like 1.3 and up range?
I mean, I'd say those are the guys that I would have interest in as well at the top. I mean, the only other guy is Jason Kokrak, who's playing, coming off of an incredible stretch of golf, but the 1.3 feels like middle range of if he's valuable there. He's a little short off the tee. Kind of could be some issues. Reasonable approach shot player, and as you alluded to, gains a lot of strokes putting, which may not be as valuable on this course. So yeah, I think those are great recommendations at the top, and obviously got to trust the numbers a little bit here.
Yep. And then some other guys to kind of round out some of these deep plays. Touched on Migliozzi, Rosner, Kokrak is down here somewhere. Griot's a guy that is interesting to me. He's a super high volatility golfer, which not great for cash purposes, but I think he's got some tournament appeal. In my mind, really strong ball striker, struggles around and on the green. Harman let down last week as the favorite, didn't even make the cut, but I think could be a bounce back spot where he goes a bit under owned due to recent performances. Let's see, as I scroll through here, Neiman, I don't know, Neiman at 1.15 doesn't seem super appealing to me. Yeah, I don't know. Those are, I think, some of the guys that stand out. I think Harman could be interesting. Griot. Kirk we like in our projections a good bit. Just well-rounded golfer. Doesn't have great Vegas implied odds relative to his multiplier. Not terrible though, but you can certainly get better with like Migliozzi or Rosner. Griot, I guess about in line. Seems like some of these, Oosthuizen got great implied odds relative to multiplier. We don't have a super strong projection on it, but not terrible. You would get some Oosthuizen if you're running optimals and imposing some sort of bounce. So we can just take a look at our optimal and try to talk through maybe ways to improve upon it. So our optimal as of now: Rory, Schauffele, Reed, Migliozzi, Tringali, Rosner. I feel good about these kind of top three guys: Rory, Schauffele, Reed. To me, going 3 of Migliozzi, Tringali, Rosner feels a bit risky. All of these guys are probably 50% or so to make the cut. That being said, I mean, like last weekend with such a birdie friendly course, not getting say 5 of 6 through was really going to hurt you. I do think a course that's going to allow fewer birdies, you can get away with like say 3 of 6 if one of your 3 that makes it through, or like an outright winner, or kind of a low multiplier guy that puts up a solid score. But definitely for cash game purposes, I think regardless of week, don't love the idea of taking like 3 coin flips to make the cut. Might be more inclined to go with something like swap Finau for Tringali, or you could even set a rule of like max 1 of Rosner, Guido, and Tringali. See what that spits out. Do you have a sense kind of how you like to manage the relative, like the optimizer is just going to try to put together the best lineup from a mean projection standpoint, but for cash game purposes, like do you have a sense of kind of how you like to balance the relative floor, I guess, of plays versus the possible ceiling that they could achieve?
Yeah, well, I'd say kind of similar to the path you're going down. In cash, especially in a tournament like this that projects a lot of the value in the top players, like you can have such a winnable lineup without getting crazy looking for, some of the, like you're much more likely to just play 4 of the top 25 players that all have really good rounds and do well in cash games, and then have 1 or 2 kind of higher multiplier guys and have success. Whereas if you're looking for like an outright tournament win, you kind of need to get a little more aggressive and, hope like if you have 3 of those guys we alluded to that, kind of do a round robin of which 2 you include in some of your like top 10 lineups. But I mean, I really like some of these top guys in our projections. So, I'll look to, if I'm in cash, I'll look to have like 4 or 5 of them involved. I'm really high on Justin Thomas this week after his 15 under. I think it was last week. And then, Guido looks great. And I'd go more like a balance like that.
Yeah, I definitely think for cash game purposes, there's maybe some benefit to swapping off of, maybe 1 to 2 of like, who do we have? Migliozzi, Tringali, and Rosner, and maybe, subbing in like, to me, Finau feels a little safer. Like Zalatoris, I like a good bit. These lineups that kind of have lower cumulative multipliers, or you could even add an extra, an extra stud in there like Thomas, who, is coming off a solid top 10 finish at the Scottish Open last week. So seems to be well primed for the links course. I don't know, as I look at some of these other ones, like let's see, how does this one differ from the Zalatoris?
Rory. Yeah.
Got it. Oh, I see. This one's got Rahm. So yeah, it's pretty much swapping out Finau for Finau to Rahm. So, essentially you're trading some, Finau upside just because he's got the high multiplier, and, Rahm has less upside. Like, he's got to, have like a top 3 finish or so to really pay off that 1x. But like Finau can miss a cut here and there. Finau will miss a cut here and there, is where like Rahm feels super safe. So, trying to maybe skew towards some of these low cumulative multiplier lineups, setting rules with some of these high multiplier guys, I think could be a valuable way to consider cash games. All right, and why don't we can move quickly to NBA Game 4 tonight. Suns at Bucks, 2-1 Phoenix lead. Milwaukee will try to even the series. Giannis coming off some, back-to-back huge games. Chris Paul and Ayton have looked solid. Booker coming off a bit of a dud, although I think at this point in the season we kind of understand the range of outcomes for about all these guys. So I'm not really sure that like people are going to be scared off, say, Booker based on kind of one recent bad performance. But yeah, talk me through NBA. I know you managed the projections tonight for Game 4. Who are you seeing as kind of the strong plays, both in terms of low multiplier, not so much locks, but just strong low multiplier plays? And are there any? It looks like our projections are skewing very much towards the stars, but are there any kind of secondary or tertiary players on either side that you're particularly high on?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of gone the way that the whole playoffs have gone, where in any close game, the top guys are really the ones who fill the lineups. And then I'd say this series has kind of been similar to theirs, that one kind of either role player or less likely to score starter who kind of completes the lineup. So we've seen Bridges get it done, and I think it was Game 2. We've seen some success from Pat Connaughton, and kind of some of these other role players. Cam Johnson had a great game last game, even though with the loss. So I think looking from like building a complete lineup perspective, this game is projected to be another close one. I think it's 3.5 point line towards Milwaukee. So our projections are all over kind of this core of the big main three scorers on each team. You got your Middleton, Giannis, and Holiday, and then Booker, Paul, Ayton. And we have Ayton, Middleton, and Paul at the top there. I wouldn't have, it's kind of like a tight pack. So if you had to specifically lean either way, I wouldn't hate it. But and then from building a lineup off of that, I'd pass over PJ Tucker. He's got that 2.5 multiplier, but I mean, he just has some complete duds and gets into foul trouble. So I think there's a path where he's useless. But I mean, Cameron Johnson looked incredible last game. I'd look for him to be more involved and have a chance at upside. If he gets like 11 attempts, gets hot from 3, he's an easy contributor. And then the other analyst at ASA, Gus, absolutely loves Connaughton tonight. So I'll give him the shout out there that's a guy who, I mean, we've seen 5 for 10, and I mean, he's just a guy who can score, but at the same time, you're exposed to duds. So my mid multiplier guy would be Cameron Johnson, and I'd build around Booker, Ayton, Middleton, and then kind of maybe a little rotation of the other top guys.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just looking through it, and our 6 favorite post multiplier projections are also the 6 highest lowest, I guess, multipliers on the slate. So for cash game purposes, you can run with some mix of those top 6 guys. For tournament, though, I do think the single game contests are interesting. And, not only are you trying to optimize towards overall fantasy points scored, but also trying to, I guess, optimize away from possible duplication. And I think if you just roll out a bunch of, permutations of those top 6 guys, like there's obviously a good probability of winning first place, but I think you're just going to hit a lot of lineup duplication. I mean, I'm looking really at, what you can, I guess, whatever the math of 6 choose 5 kind of comes out to be, but there's got to be like 10 or so different. Yeah, it looks like all the way down to here. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9. 9 different permutations of those top 6 guys. Like, I think there's just so much duplication possibility that for tournament purposes, you are going to want to choose 4 of those top guys and sprinkle in a low multiplier play or a high multiplier play, kind of low rotation guy. Obviously, it's tough to project with much confidence. Like any of these guys outside of maybe like, Johnson, Bridges, Connaughton, these are guys who, we're projecting for pretty strong roles, and Johnson is kind of high usage. Like Bobby Portis is even a guy that, he's not going to project well from a median standpoint, but, he can just have himself a game and kind of just get going quickly. So I do think for tournament purposes, trying to find, one of these high multiplier guys and sprinkle them in there. You could even set a rule like at least one of Bridges, Johnson, Payne, Crowder, Tucker, etc. Obviously, you're seeding kind of outright win equity, but making up for it with kind of you're seeding like first place optimal lineup equity, but you are gaining more expected value by reducing the number of duplicates that you would potentially chop with if you could take it down. All right, sweet. Well, it should be a fun night, I guess, with the Open kicking off tonight. For those that are going to stay up and watch either some or all of the first round, it should be a fun night of DFS, which is very welcome following the MLB All-Star break. So good luck to you tonight, Charles. Good luck to all the listeners out there. Encourage you guys again to comment your SuperDraft name and your favorite English golfer for the Open this weekend, either in YouTube or in Twitter. We'll do a randomized drawing, about 30 minutes or so, and get you guys those tickets to the Albatross contest. It's a $25 ticket. Good luck to everyone tonight, and we will be back either later this week or early next week with our usual MLB and potentially NBA streams.
Awesome.